All right. So our session is now recording. Kick it off with today's session is titled LinkedIn Masterclass. Land the perfect job with LinkedIn. Jeremy Scheifling and Omar Garriott leading education led education marketing at LinkedIn. So they saw firsthand how powerful a tool LinkedIn is for students going after the world's most competitive jobs. Now they've compiled all the most advanced techniques they learned inside LinkedIn to help Lakeland students and alumni, as well as our staff, do the same in their own careers. From understanding how recruiters use the platform to finding alumni referrals at just about any job in the world. So today, get a crash course in this session led by Jeremy. Take it away, Jeremy.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Raylene. And thank you to the whole team over at Lakeland. I don't know if you all have had a chance to meet Raylene or her colleague Chantel, but they are a dynamic duo who are powering all these awesome events this year. And I know that while times are tough when it comes to the economy and public health, you have a rock star team at your side in Raylene and Chantel. So please send them a digital shout out in the Microsoft Teams chat as well as over email. They made the session entirely possible. And I also want to thank you for investing time in this power hour or power hour and a half, as it were. I'm going to make the next 60 to 90 minutes super worthwhile for you, whether you're starting your career, transitioning careers, or wherever you are in your journey. I'm going to give you what you need to take that next step. So exactly as mentioned, what we're going to be talking about today is using LinkedIn to hack the hiring process. And I have a confession to make. I only happen to go to the world's second best university, but nobody's perfect. Not everyone can go to Lakeland. But the one thing that I'm really excited to share with you is that when I came out of my grad school program and I landed a job at LinkedIn, I was thinking, okay, this is nice. It's a good job. It's well paying. But what I didn't realize was that I was about to go inside the nexus of how all hiring across the world actually works. Because if you're a recruiter, if you're a hiring manager and you're trying to find great talent in 2021, I can guarantee that you're on LinkedIn. And that means you, the great talent who wants to find those awesome jobs, have to be on LinkedIn as well. But I don't want you to just focus on all the random stuff. Instead, I'm going to share the secrets with you today that I've shared with students and alumni around the world to help them land amazing jobs across different industries, but especially to focus on 3 core principles. And they're as follows. Number 1, right now, in our current macroeconomic environment, where the labor market is just going crazy with people being laid off or people having trouble finding another job, it can be really depressing to be a job seeker. And you can start to say, you know what, I might as well just give up. What's the point of pushing on? But I want you to change your lens a little bit. Instead of thinking about the labor market as this broad, sort of unknowable beast, zoom down to the micro level of an individual hire, whether it's a company you're excited about or an NGO you're excited about. That process is still a step-by-step linear experience that you can totally understand. And if you've ever done anything with engineering, you know that one of the big advantages of a linear step-by-step process is that you can reverse engineer it. You can break it down and take advantage of it every single step by step. And the best way to do that reverse engineering, the place that you want to do all that hacking, if you will, is LinkedIn. Because basically, LinkedIn is the world's cornerstone when it comes to hiring. It's every single company in the world, every single recruiter in the world, and every single job in the world all in one place. So if you're going to spend even an hour in 2021 thinking about a new job or changing careers, LinkedIn is where you want to spend that time. However, like I was alluding to before, you don't want to just focus on the same old things that everybody else is focusing on. I'm going to read a lot of articles and maybe I'll post a post and see what happens. No, don't fall for that trap. Instead, use LinkedIn the same efficient and ruthless way that recruiters do, because if you stay focused, you can keep your eyes on the prize. And the way that recruiters use LinkedIn is very simple. It's a 4-step process. The first idea is that with 700 million professionals on LinkedIn, you can be sure that recruiters are totally focused in their search. They're not looking for general talent or a leader or a team player. Instead, they're looking for people who know exactly where they want to be. they want to be an accountant, a business analyst, a product manager. And then number two, they've had really clear targets on their profiles that make themselves discoverable. So they have the right keywords in the right sections, and they're easy to be found. And then they're not just looking for people who have the right keywords, but people who are showing signs of engagement. So they're saying, hey, I'm in the game. I'm a serious candidate. Give me a shot. And then finally, the recruiter doesn't want to take any chances they don't have to. So they go out there and they find referrals. Someone that they know at their current company who already knows you and can vouch for you. And that's how they get a surefire hire. So that's how recruiters use LinkedIn. But how should you use it? Well, my recommendation is take each one of those steps and hack it one by one. So first of all, if recruiters want really focused candidates, well, you got to get focused. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. If recruiters are looking for the right targets in terms of the keywords and things that define success, I'm going to help you paint a giant bullseye on your profile. If recruiters want you to be engaged, I'm going to help you showcase those signals of engagement so they know you're in the game. And then finally, if a referral is the gold standard for a recruiter, well, guess what? We're going to get you a referral, and I'm going to show you how to do it step by step. But before we get there, I want to throw out a pop quiz to you. And I want you to answer this in the Teams chat by typing in A, B, or C. So whether you're new to LinkedIn or whether you've been using LinkedIn for a decade or more, if you are embarking on a job search here in 2021, what do you think is the first thing you should do on LinkedIn? Is it A, optimize your profile, B, start networking with alumni, or C, immediately start searching for jobs? So go ahead and plug in your answers right into the chat. I'm going to get a sense of what folks are saying. So I got to give a shout out to Edwin, who was first. Edwin said A. Cheryl agrees. Hong also says A. Paramveer says A. Amelia says A. Colleen says A. David says A. Ryan says A. Donna says A. It is a clean sweep. It's A's across the board, which is awesome that Lakeland is so unified and has such strong consensus. The only problem is that the answer is actually B. And I know what you might be thinking. You're like, Jeremy, how could that be true? LinkedIn is all about profiles. Of course I'm going to work on my profile. Well, let me explain it to you, not through just sort of conventional wisdom or rumors, but how LinkedIn actually works from the inside. And what you're seeing on your screen right now is LinkedIn, but it's not the LinkedIn that you're used to as someone who uses it potentially for free as a job seeker. Instead, this is the special recruiter version that recruiters pay $10,000 per year per seat to access. And the reason they pay so richly is that this gives them access to all the world's talent all in one place. But even with all that talent, recruiters come back to a very simple rubric. They say, I need someone who can do a specific job, in this case, project manager. I need someone who can do it in a specific location, in this case, Chicago. And I need someone who has specific skills, so maybe Microsoft Project and PMP certification. And that's how they begin their search, with tons of focus and knowing exactly the exact candidate they want. Which is problematic then, is if you have a profile like my friend Raphael here, where you've basically just dumped all this stuff onto your LinkedIn, where you say, hey, here's the job that I used to have, here's the job that I want to have next, here are a couple other jobs I'm curious about. And even though that might seem safe to you, you're covering your bases, it's kind of like a disaster for a recruiter because they don't see any focus. They don't have any sense of who you really are or where you belong. Whereas someone like my friend Megan is like catnip to every recruiter because she's done the hard work to figure out exactly her focus area, and she's broadcasting that with laser intensity. I'm not 800 different things, I'm a project manager. I'm not in 800 different places, I'm in Chicago. And now, if I'm looking for a project manager in Chicago, you better believe I'm picking someone like Megan. So that being said, I want to help a member of the Lakeland community get to that level of laser-like focus in your own career. And so if you're thinking right now, there are a couple different things I'm interested in, but I'm not sure the path that's right for me. I don't know where my North Star is. What I would like for you to do is go over to the Teams chat and put in these two magic words, I'm in. And then I'll actually have a chance to give you live one-on-one coaching to help guide you to the perfect job for you so that you can be focused. You can have a profile that stands out to every recruiter in your profession. And again, all you have to do is come over to the chat and put in those two magic words, I'm in, and you're going to get free coaching on the house, courtesy of the awesome Lakeland team. Raylene and Chantel. So Spencer, you were very first. So thank you for being our brave volunteer. Edwin, we'll come back to you for the next one. Same for Panvir and Amelia. And if Spencer, if you wouldn't mind unmuting your line and turning on your video, that would be awesome. And Spencer, just let me know when you're on.
Hello.
Hey, Spencer, how are you?
Good, good. How are you?
Doing great. And Spencer, I just have to give you a huge sort of shout out because being the first volunteer, especially in front of your classmates and your colleagues, it always takes a lot of guts. So huge kudos to you. All right. And everyone, please send a little pat on the back to Spencer in the chat because I know we're all in this together as the Lakeland community. So Spencer, let me come back to the big question at hand here, which is, if you are considering where to go next in the roaring 20s and beyond, what are the different pathways that you're considering at this point?
For myself personally?
Exactly.
Mechanical engineering. I decided to go that route because I found it was very broad, very generic, and it was in multiple different sectors.
Yeah.
I found you could go anywhere from shipbuilding in the BC coast to farming equipment in Saskatchewan.
Wow.
Now for the focus, because I know there's 101 different mechanical engineers, I do have interest in mechanical, my apologies, robotics and renewable energy.
Oh.
At this point, though, we're talking a couple of years down the road, and as the further along in time you go, it's hard to know. And so as I go along my path, I'll definitely find a more focus.
Cool, cool. Well, let me throw out a hypothesis to you. Let's imagine that it's now not 2021, but 2025. And you've gone down the path of renewable energy because it seems so appealing, so glamorous, you know, the field of the future. But now, 4 years later, you're miserable. It's not the job that you expected. It's not the field that you expected. You're like, oh, I wish I hadn't gotten myself in this mess. If I could save you from that fate, how appealing would that be here in 2021?
That would be awesome.
Okay, and that's exactly what I'm proposing to do, because the mistake that I've made and so many job seekers have made over the course of their careers is they pursue whatever's hot. And there's a certain logic to it. You know, if the field is growing, their jobs, that's great. But because they don't really dig into what that job entails, oftentimes they get caught up doing something that they don't really love. That might be a better job for their friend than for themselves. And so what I'm going to encourage you to do right now, as well as all of your classmates, is to actually dig into what that job looks like, not from the high level, but from the inside, the people who are actually doing it. And if you want to find people who are in renewables today, who could you reach out to that might be a really easy person to talk to who's inside that space?
Actually, it's funny enough that you mentioned that. During one of our renewable energy courses, we had to do a research project, and I reached out to Skyfire, which was a solar company in, they have a couple of places, but the one I reached out to was in Edmonton. And it was interesting. I met this gentleman named Ben. He was the welcome person, the face you see when you approach the company. And I've actually connected with him on LinkedIn. We got to chit-chatting, and he actually took his renewable energy course at NATE.
Okay.
So it was very interesting. We had a little chit-chat. He answered some of the questions I had. And yeah, I felt we had a connection there.
I love it. I love it. And that's exactly, you know, what I'm talking about. When I sometimes use the word networking, people cringe because they start to think, oh my goodness, like going to cocktail parties or whatever the Zoom equivalent of cocktail parties is, having business cards, trying to like meet the right person. No, I'm talking about just finding the people who you're already excited by and just asking them questions driven by curiosity. And it's such a natural thing that kids do all the time, but that we as grownups often say, oh, that's just too awkward. But with LinkedIn and the approach that you mentioned, like that's going to be really easy. And so let me give everyone a sort of a walkthrough of how you could do that. So let's say you came over here to LinkedIn, and even if you didn't know anyone already in the space the way that Spencer did, you could start with this group of friendly folks, which is just, you know, Lakeland alumni. So we come over here to Lakeland University. We choose, actually, this is the wrong Lakeland. My apologies. Here we go. All right, that's much better. Okay, we come over here to the Lakeland page, and then we come over here to this alumni tab. And this is actually the tool that I worked on when I was at LinkedIn, but it's really powerful because without paying LinkedIn a cent, you actually have access to all these fascinating alumni careers across the college, all searchable. So in Spencer's case, we might say, who's working in the renewable space, renewable energy, renewable fuels? And sure enough, there are about 95 folks in that space. And when you see any of these locations, Spencer, or you see any of these companies, do any of them appeal to you just out of curiosity? Like, hey, I'd be fascinated to know who's at that organization or who's with that government.
Well, I'm seeing City of Edmonton there, and that's
Okay.
pretty good. One of my focuses, of course, is benefits. I'm actually going to be getting myself out of the military, and I've been in the military since I was 20 years old. And so
Wow.
I'm kind of used to working for government. And so, again, that's where I'm hoping my focus will be in the engineering field.
Beautiful. So let's just go with that. And again, there's no wrong answer at this stage. It's all pure exploration. So click on anything you want. Come on down here. Now, this guy has firefighter and fire instructor, but let's look at his profile to get a better sense of what he's doing in the renewable space. And I think if we digged in, we might discover that he's actually done some interesting things in his past. So we can always check out his past experience. Yeah, maybe he's done something with the material space, things like that. Now, if you wanted to get in touch with Adam, you were curious to learn more about his experience, Spencer, how would you go about even engaging him? Like, how would you reach out and catch Adam's attention?
I honestly don't know. The act of reaching out and some stranger and say, "Hi, how are you?" It's for me, it feels kind of interesting. I'm more of a folk where circumstance and opportunity, and that's where you jump on it. So
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
totally, totally. So let me just walk through it. I know this is going to feel like really basic for some folks on the line, and that's okay. But I really want to give you the exact tools and the exact tactics to get you moving in the right direction. So let's just come over to the top and say, let's just send him a message, or maybe we connect with him and have a personalized connection request. And now here's where I want you to let human nature be your guide, Spencer. Don't try to overthink it or have a fancy, message. If you just wanted to reach out, Lakeland alum to Lakeland alum, what would you say to Adam to catch his attention and maybe to strike up a conversation?
Let's see. Hi, how are you? I see that we've attended the same college at one point in time or another. I was kind of interested as to your experience and what you've done with that with regards to the renewable energy.
Yeah. I want to just call out the brilliant things you're doing here. You're just being conversational, right? You're not like, hey, I'm here to sell you something or even sell myself. I'm just driven by curiosity. This is what I have in common. We share this alma mater. We share this passion. Who's passionate about the renewable space. And then one last thing, if you want to turn this from just a bland outreach into an actual conversation that maybe you have on Zoom next week, what could you say at the end of this little message that might take this relationship into the next level?
I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Yeah, always make the ask, right? In marketing talk, we always call that the call to action, which is, what do you want this person to do beyond just feel good about you? And I would just be as specific as you can. I know you must be incredibly busy here in 2021, but I'd love to learn from your experience, which is true, right?
Yeah.
Again, not get a job, not get you to do anything that's awkward. Just tell your story. And everyone wants to tell their story a little bit. Any chance you'd be free for a 10-minute Zoom chat next week? How does that feel? Does that feel overbearing?
No, it sounds open and honest.
Yeah. And again, I just get so many emails from students or alumni at my own alma mater that are like, Jeremy, I really want to get a job where you work, and can you help me, get a referral, blah, blah, blah. And at some point I would love to help them with that, but that's no way to open a relationship, right? We just start asking for stuff. Instead, just give them a chance to tell their story and pay it forward. I think any alum in the world would appreciate that microphone. So I'm going to plug that into the chat so folks can learn from your wise counsel here, Spencer. But I do have one last question for you before I let you go, which is, you've done all the hard work right now. You found the right alum, you reached out the right way. What are you going to ask Adam during 10 or 15 minutes on Zoom next week that could help you figure out, is the renewable space a good space for you?
I guess I would ask him how his first experience was jumping into the renewable field,
Yeah,
his
yeah,
job, interpretation, how did they treat him, how was the environment,
yeah.
uh, things of that nature. And I don't know, maybe a small second would be how's the pay and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
But
sure. Totally. Those are important questions. And then as he's telling you this, and he's like, well, it was really hard to break in, and because I didn't have a formal background in the space, I had to jump through all these hoops. But here's what I do day to day. Like as he's telling you all these things, how are you processing them internally? What are you imagining?
just what I'm visualizing as he's telling him.
Exactly.
Oh gosh, an engaging job is what I'm imagining in my head. One that's satisfying uh, and results.
Yeah, yeah. And you don't even have to stretch your imagination too far because basically all you need to do is put yourself in his shoes. He's painting you this picture, right? Of this is what it's like on the inside, warts and all. You can easily extrapolate, like, okay, if I were doing that, would I love it? Would I be like hopping out of bed at 6 a.m. every morning because I couldn't wait to get into work? Or is what he's describing like my personal kryptonite? Would that totally demoralize me if I had to do what he had to do? Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, I do have a pretty clear vision of what I'm hoping, kind of laser focus. It would be great to hear from somebody who actually uh, has hands-on experience as to what that is all about, the ins and outs.
Yeah, yeah. And again, if we come back to the very beginning of our conversation, think about that crystal ball idea that 4 years from now, you're totally miserable because the job isn't at all what you expected. Now, if you learn from Adam and 5 or 10 other Lakeland alumni who are just like Adam, who have diverse experiences across this industry, now you're not going in blind hoping for the best. You're learning from the absolute best in the space. So you come in eyes wide open. How does that
Not to
sound?
mention you'd know about the company itself and whether that is a good company that treats its employees well or not so much.
Exactly, exactly. And so that way, what you just demoed here, Spencer, is like the true path to career happiness for any career path, for every single person on this conversation right now, whether you want to get into energy or dentistry or accounting or what have you, like do your homework, do your research, find out what it's like, and then take the plunge as opposed to just dive in and then be miserable for 4 years. So thank you so much for sharing that, Spencer.
No worries. Thank you.
All right, so Spencer has absolutely rocked it. He definitely has earned all the accolades. I saw Chantel share that GIF of Dwight on The Office, which definitely sparks how I feel about Spencer's demonstration here. Totally nailed it. Okay, that being said, we just sort of talked about how to get focused. But now let's come back to that thing that you were all mentioning in the very first pop quiz, which is, okay, I've done the hard work. I know where I belong. How do I communicate that on my LinkedIn profile? Well, to answer that question, I want to come back to another pop quiz, which is, of these 3 sections, which do you think is the most important part of your LinkedIn profile? Is it A, your work experience, B, your recommendations, or C, your headline? So again, over to the chat, Spencer's saying B, recommendations, which you usually see at the bottom. Ryan agrees with B. Edwin agrees with B. I'm seeing a lot of really sort of tight camaraderie here across the Lakeland community. But actually, Amelia and Donna are breaking off. They're saying C, the headline, that little piece of text that appears beneath your name. Shania agrees. Chantel agrees. Chantel, you're cheating a little bit. You've seen one of these before. But I think Chantel may have given it away. The answer is indeed C, the headline. And again, let me walk the talk a little bit here. I can say, oh yeah, trust me on this one, or I can show you how it works on the inside. And so again, back to LinkedIn Recruiter, which is the source of truth about how hiring actually works. And remember, we have that recruiter who's searching for the perfect project manager in Chicago. And lo and behold, what do we discover? But a fascinating pattern has emerged, which is every single person at the top of this list. These are people who are going to have basically a job interview served to them on a silver platter, because the recruiter is going to reach out and say, Emily, Channing, Aubrey, will you interview for my awesome firm? And the reason that they got to the top of that list is a very simple pattern. They had the job title, project manager, right there in their most important section, which indeed is their headline. Project manager, project manager, project manager. And so what that should tell you about LinkedIn is that it's not some complicated black box with rocket science in the background. Instead, it's a simple matching exercise. Can we help recruiters find people who match their jobs? And you don't have to match everything, but most importantly, you do want to always match the job title. Now, to help you bring that same level of focus to your own profile, I would love to ask for another volunteer who wants to be my profile guinea pig. And in return, I'm going to give you a live profile makeover so that your profile absolutely rises to the very top of this list and you start having recruiters reaching out to you. So again, the magic words are I'm in, right in the Teams chat. If you want to be our profile makeover and I'll be happy to take your profile from wherever it is today to rockstar status in just a couple of minutes. So come over to the Teams chat, say I'm in, and I will help you get there. And I'll also come back to some of the folks before who volunteered. We'll start with Ryan, but we will do at least one more of these before we're done. So fear not, Charlene. So Ryan, if you wouldn't mind doing the same as Spencer and unmuting your mic and video. Just let me know when you're on.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you great. How are you, Ryan?
Not too bad. How are you? For some reason, I'm having an issue with my camera today. It's not.
Oh, don't worry about it. I feel like that's all of 2020 and all of 2021, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Is my mic on? Am I muted? Totally. So you're getting a sense, I think, at this point, Ryan, that there really is no such thing as the perfect generic LinkedIn profile.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, there's just a really perfect profile for a specific search. And so if I asked you to close your eyes and imagine that somewhere at your dream company right now, there's a recruiter who's typing in a specific job title into LinkedIn to find people who fit that job description, what would that job title be?
Project manager.
Oh, amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe the person doing this search is your dream recruiter. And just to sort of illuminate that a little further, is there a specific firm or industry that you're really excited about?
Right now is renewable energies. Yep.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. So you definitely need to be in touch with Spencer then, because I think that's, the power of the Lakeland network right there. You have a similar
passion. In the same classes, so.
Oh, okay. Amazing. That's great. Okay. Well, I'm glad you have each other as you embark on this renewables journey. Mm-hmm. For now, let me give you some advice that applies not just to your profile, but to everyone's. So just as a way of, again, proving out what I'm telling you here, if I were to do a search on LinkedIn, very similar to the search that a recruiter does, and say, I need a project manager, what do you immediately notice about everyone who rises to the top of these results? What do they all have in common?
Project managers are all there.
Exactly, right there in that headline, that little piece of text below their name. So then, if you're okay with it, Ryan, I would love to put your profile on the screen. Again, not for the purposes of criticism, but just for education for the whole community.
This is all still new to me, so yeah, definitely.
Okay, awesome. I really appreciate that. And again, everyone, please thank Ryan in the chat, because it takes a lot of bravery just to raise your hand. It takes a special kind of bravery to share your LinkedIn profile out there. So, got to thank Ryan. Let me see if I can find the exact perfect one. Let me know if there's anything I can add to your profile search to track down the right one.
You could add military as well.
Okay, great. I believe that was probably you right there at the top. Is that the one?
Nope.
Sorry. Do you have Lakeland on your profile?
Yeah.
Okay. Huh. Very strange. And I got your name right. It's possible you may have turned on your privacy settings to prevent that. Anything else?
Maybe.
There might be a signifier on your profile to help us track it down. Either that, or you could actually paste it into the chat, and I can just click on the link. And the way you can do that is you can go to the Me tab if you have LinkedIn pulled up.
Yep.
Go to View Profile, and then your custom URL is right there at the top. So I could paste in mine. By the way, if anyone wants to connect with me, if you want to follow up with questions later or anything, always happy to chat. But if Ryan, if you don't mind pasting yours in as well, that would be awesome.
Just a second here.
Okay. And so as you can probably guess, while Ryan pulls that up, what we're shooting for now is how do we get Ryan to the top of this list? So that way, if I'm searching for a project manager, Ryan's my very top candidate. And it really is incredible. Like, I could probably pull open my messaging tab right now, and I'm going to see people who are saying, Jeremy, I would love to reach out to you for an interview. Let's see if I can pull up some examples just to give you a sense. Let's see. Yeah, all these people reaching out, all based on, having a really strong LinkedIn profile. So if you want to sort of be in that same position, I want you to follow the steps that we talk about next. Okay, so Ryan has pulled it up. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
All right, there we are. Beautiful. So Ryan, let's go back to where we were a second ago, which was sort of simulating that recruiter experience, searching for a project manager.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the pattern that you identified right here, what would you immediately change about your own headline to take advantage of that?
Oh, I definitely put project management instead
Cool.
of completing renewable energy.
Cool. And there's no reason you can't have both, by the way. If you want to do project management in the renewable energy space, it helps to have both keywords.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you a question, because this may apply to some folks on the line. Do you have any qualms about calling yourself a project manager?
No?
Because you've done it before in the military, it sounds like.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Beautiful. In that case, you're great. You're golden. But some folks might be saying, you know what? I also want to be a project manager, but unlike Ryan, I'm not a project manager yet. What can I do? Can I claim to be something I'm not? That doesn't seem ethical. Well, the way you can get around that problem is basically by applying a modifier. So you could say aspiring product manager, future project manager, passionate about project management. And all of those things will still get you onto this list because they still include the key keyword, but they are more truthful about where you are in your own career. So just a way to sort of square that circle, if you will, as you start out on a new career. Okay, so I would definitely add that to your headline because that's going to be your most important keyword in your most important section.
Mm-hmm.
Next question for you, Ryan. If we come back to this recruiter search here, what was also a key filter beyond job title? What else mattered to the recruiter when they were beginning their search?
Location, I'm
Location,
guessing.
right? Because,
Yeah.
there's more remote work now in 2021 than there's ever been. But I think at some point, especially once we reach herd immunity, there is going to be a bit of a retrenchment too. I do want someone who can come into the office once in a while. And if you're on the other side of the world, that's just hard. So question for you, Ryan, do you want to stay in Sturgeon County?
Edmonton. Yeah.
Okay. And is that correct me if I'm wrong, but is that like in the neighborhood, or is that pretty far away?
Yeah, I just live 20 minutes north of Edmonton. So
Okay.
anywhere in the Edmonton area.
Beautiful. So you're in good shape. One thing you could do, by the way, is you can always choose the greater Edmonton area. So for example, on this search, I could say, show me everybody who's a project manager specifically in greater Edmonton metropolitan area. And that could give you a little more breadth to where you're discovered. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's number 2. And then let's come back to that search result, because again, this is kind of like a Rosetta Stone. This is going to help us translate the world of recruiters into the world of job seekers. We know they're looking for job titles, and that's going to be in your headline. We know they're looking for locations, and you're going to nail that. What is the other piece of information that appears on this screen that is really important to a human recruiter, but maybe not so important to a LinkedIn algorithm? What do you think that might be?
Maybe experience.
So it could be experience, although the algorithm can absolutely scan every piece of text on your profile. And that's why you definitely want to nail your headline, but you also want to include the same keywords in about and experience and everywhere. But I think Spencer may have gotten it, your classmate there, which is indeed the photo. Because the holy trinity, if you will, of LinkedIn when it comes to what matters on your profile is you got to have your headline, you got to have your location, and the algorithm loves both of those. But you also have to help out the recruiter who's using the algorithm. And we all know that humans being humans are just totally driven by pictures and faces. There are studies of newborn babies that will spend more time gazing at human faces than they will at food sources, which is tell you how important faces are to our human hierarchy of needs. And when I was at LinkedIn, I did a study and we asked recruiters who claimed, oh, I never look at photos. It's not important. Who cares? Recruiters, I kid you not, were 14 times more likely to send you a message on LinkedIn if you had a photo than if you didn't. So I rest my case there. Okay, that being said, there are a couple things that really define a great photo. And I want to call out all 3 in relation to your photo, Ryan. The first one is, you've got this nice big photo frame up here, but look at the version that recruiters are looking at. How many pixels do you think they're getting to look at your beautiful visage?
I don't know. Not very much.
Yeah, 25 by 25, 50 by 50, some tiny amount, right? And so the problem is that if you have a version of the photo like yours, where it's kind of zoomed out a little bit, you're not making all those pixels work for you, because I'm seeing a lot of background and a lot of shoulders, which doesn't give me that rich information that I can gather from your face. So definitely crop it a little tighter. And you can actually now do that right on LinkedIn just by clicking on your photo. So that's the first thing. Number two, once I zoom in, I want to sort of use that face in the subconscious way to give me a sense of who you're going to be as a potential colleague. And there are studies in North America that kind of suggest recruiters prefer a very collaborative, genial colleague above all others. And tell me, do you think, honestly, Ryan, that what you have on your face today is broadcasting those subconscious signals of like, hey, Ryan's a great teammate. He's going to be super friendly. He's going to fit in right away.
No, probably not. That was
Probably
my
not.
idea for EPCOR.
And again, I know it sounds like, total BS, but there's been so many studies behind this, which is that basically we have hardwired into our DNA a BS detector when it comes to faces, which is even if you were doing a fake smile, what psychologists call like a Botox smile, where I'm seeing a lot of teeth but nothing else, that's also not going to cut it. Instead, I want what Emily has here, which is what is called the Duchenne smile. And it's basically your autonomic nervous system kicking into gear because you're genuinely happy about something. Maybe you're imagining your dream job in the renewable space. And so there's an upturn in the lips, a dimpling in the cheeks, and a little wrinkling around the eyes that says to me, hey, this guy is a plain shooter who is who he says he is, and he's going to be an awesome teammate that everyone's going to want to work with. And again, a recruiter is making that decision in half of a second, so you know it's going to be pretty subconscious. Sounds fair?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And then third and finally, imagining that it's 2022 now and people are back into the office to some extent, what do you think folks are wearing to work at the places that you most want to work next? What kind of attire?
Semi-business casual, I guess.
Yeah. And so I would say that probably, if you said I want to work at a fancy bank like TD, for instance, I would say it's probably way too casual. That being said, even for like a business casual environment, what you have on might be a tad too casual because it says, hey, is this guy really serious? Or does he maybe not necessarily blend into our environment? So what you can do is you can come back here. You can say, show me all the project managers in the renewable space in Edmonton or whatever location you want to look at. And you can basically just copy whatever they're using because it's working for them. They're rising to the top. And sure enough, folks like Tyler, it's not a full-on three-piece suit, but it's a little step above where you are today. And I think that's what you want to shoot for. Because it basically says, hey, I'm not an outsider, I'm an insider. I'm already a member of your tribe. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So Ryan, if I was to give you a little bit of homework, it's number one, get that critical job title into your critical section, project manager, right in your headline. Expand your location from Sturgeon County all the way to the greater Edmonton area. And then finally, zoom in your photo, have a little bit more of a Duchenne smile on your face with a little bit more of a business casual vibe. Is that all doable?
Yeah, definitely.
I promise you, if you take my word on this one, within probably maybe 10 minutes of time and then maybe a week or two of time for the algorithm to click in, you will be getting a little bit of outreach probably for the first time. So I want you to try that and let me know how it goes, okay?
Definitely.
Okay. So Ryan, you have totally rocked this one. Hopefully everyone has learned from your experience about, hey, you could spend hours and hours on your profile, but with 10 minutes, you can make a world of difference right away. And with that in mind, I want to move into our next section, which is about even higher ROI, return on investment, of spending literally seconds on LinkedIn that could potentially change the course of your career. So before we get that, let's come back to this recruiter who's basically looking for our project manager in Chicago. Now, this person seems to be in the catbird seat because they have this powerful tool and they have all the world's talent. But even with all of that, why are they freaked out by the simple number 30? Is it because they have to have 30 connections at rival firms before they can start poaching away talent? Is it because they have 30 days start to finish to hook new candidates? Or is it because LinkedIn limits them to about 30 emails to new candidates every month? So again, back to the team chat and plug in A, B, or C. Why does 30 haunt the nightmares of every recruiter on LinkedIn? So Ryan says C, Donna says C, Huang says C. We'll see if anyone disagrees. Spencer says C. So I'm going to guess that the C's have it here. Edwin says D. I love that, Edwin. Talk about thinking outside the box. But the answer is indeed C. And I know what you might be thinking. You're like, wait a second. In the very first slide, you told us that recruiters are paying $10,000 per year per seat to access Recruiter. How could LinkedIn give them a measly 30 emails a month? Well, that's honestly why LinkedIn is such a good business. It's got a monopoly over all the world's professional data, which is why Microsoft paid $26 billion for it just a couple years ago. And it also means if you are a recruiter and it's March 9th and you're seeing this on your screen, no more emails left in the tank, it's basically like the game over screen in a video game. Yeah, you're out of business, you're out of quarters. And so what are you going to do? Well, you're going to go to LinkedIn and you're going to say, LinkedIn, please throw me a bone here. What can you do for me, the poor recruiter? And LinkedIn says, okay, you're our bread and butter, so we're going to throw you 2 bones. The first one is this, that we don't like it on LinkedIn when you spam and annoy our members with jobs they don't want. And so if you reach out to people on LinkedIn about a new job and they do not respond to you because they could care less, then we will take away that email credit for the rest of the month. And essentially you're being punished for reaching out to people who really don't want to hear from you. On the other hand, if you do the much better thing of reaching out to serious candidates who do want to hear from you and actually respond to you, we will incentivize that by rewarding you that email credit back. So therefore, if you reach out to the most engaged candidates on LinkedIn, you can take 30 email credits and turn it into 300 emails or 3,000 emails by reaching out to the right people over and over again. And then of course, the second bone that goes along with that is that you got to figure out who are the engaged candidates, who's going to be likely to respond to me. And to do that, LinkedIn adds 3 more filters across the top of the screen. So we've already talked about job title filters and location filters. But even with that, you still have 43,000 candidates, which is way too many to in-mail. So if you want to find just the ones who are really in-mail worthy, here are the 3 things that you can filter for as a recruiter and that you should immediately turn on if you're a job seeker. The first one is called open to new opportunities or open to work. And it's basically a very simple idea. If you were a recruiter, wouldn't you want to know who is serious about looking for a new job versus people who love their current jobs and will never move in a million years? Well, starting a couple years ago, LinkedIn made that really easy. What they did is they came over here to the Me section where Ryan looked at his profile before, so view profile, and they added in this thing called open to work. And this is simply a bat signal, which is basically, a bright light into the world of recruiters saying, here are the things that I'm looking for. So product manager, project manager, here are the places I want to work. Edmonton, Vancouver, Toronto. Oh, maybe I want to do remote work because it's 2021. I'm looking right away or I'm looking in the future. I'm even looking for contract work or part-time work or internship work. And then finally, and this is a really cool thing, you can turn on the signal to everyone on LinkedIn. So that way your friends and family who don't even know that you're looking necessarily can discover that and help you out by introducing you to people. Or you can do it on the sly because you might have an employer today who you do not want to discover that you're looking for a new job. In that case, you can shine this bat signal just to recruiters and specifically recruiters who do not work at your current company. And that way you don't have to worry about the HR department ratting you out because no one at your firm will be able to know that you're shining the signal. But no matter which one of these things applies to you, every single person on this call should have this filter on. Let recruiters know you're in the game, you're open to work, and that way you get filtered in versus being filtered out. Next one, company connections. Again, a very simple theory. If I've got 2 great candidates, but only 1 more in-mail to spend this month, all things being equal, I would rather send it to the person who knows someone at my company versus the total stranger. Because of course, if they know someone, they're probably likely to have better feelings about the company, to be excited about the company, be more likely to respond. And that brings up the question, how do I make sure I have company connections at all the firms I want to apply? Well, you can definitely do it one at a time, try to find someone on the inside, kind of like we were demonstrating at the beginning with Spencer. Or you can take this big shortcut I'm about to give you, which is just increase the number of connections you have, period. And sure enough, when we were looking at Ryan's profile, one thing that's probably holding Ryan back today is that with only 59 connections, he has a very unlikely chance of knowing someone on the inside because he doesn't have that many connections, period. But if he wants to vastly accelerate how often he's filtered in versus being filtered out, he can go over here to the My Network tab, and he can scroll on down past the individual network section to what LinkedIn calls contact import. And again, this is a super simple thing, but a no-brainer for you, which is you want to go to more options and you want to import all the address books you have your hands on. So your Gmail address book or your school address book or even your phone's address book using the LinkedIn app. And what LinkedIn will do is it'll basically take those emails of people that you already know, people that you already trust, and it'll map them back to LinkedIn profiles using the same email addresses. And then instead of adding one connection at a time or two connections at a time, you could add 100 connections at a time or 200 connections at a time. Just doing this one simple import found 2,500 people who I know and am friends with, who I am not getting any credit for on LinkedIn because we're not connected. And just by going down this line and adding them in, I can now grow my network exponentially. And that is the simplest way for Ryan or anyone to catch up and get onto this filter. And then third and finally, talent brand. What the heck is that about? Well, again, super simple idea here, which is when I'm down to my final email of the month, I don't want to spend it on someone who couldn't even be bothered to check out my company on LinkedIn. I want to go after someone who cares about me, who's excited about my firm. And so engaging with talent brand is this just the simple act of coming to the firms you're excited about, so TD for instance, and then flat out just saying, I want to follow this firm. And by clicking that simple button, you will go from being filtered out of this search to being filtered in, to being one of those lucky few who gets a job interview served up on a silver platter. So again, 10 seconds here, maybe 20 seconds here, 3 seconds here, less than a minute of time total to vastly change your chance of getting an awesome opportunity. So I highly recommend you invest in those things ASAP. And then finally, one last section to help you get all the way to the promised land, which of course is not just having a good profile, but actually getting an interview at your dream firm. So if you look at the data, what do you think is the biggest single predictor of whether or not you get an interview these days? Is it A, having an all-star level profile, B, having the right keywords on your resume, or C, getting a referral from an employee at the company? Spencer says B, and we've talked about keywords. Amelia says C, Ryan says C, Shania says B, Edwin says C, Donna says C. So a little bit of diversity of opinion, which is always good to have a little spicy interchange. But the C's have it, and the C's don't just have it by an inch, they've got it by a mile. Check out this chart. So this is a company called JobVite. And JobVite is really cool because it's an applicant tracking system, which means they're the ones who gather all the resumes when you apply online. And then they also follow you all the way to who gets hired. And when they looked at 10 million applicants across North America, they found on the right-hand column something that was not surprising at all, which is that the vast majority of job seekers are applying on career sites and job boards. No duh. However, what they found that was really fascinating is those same people who applied online were almost never being hired. They made up a vast majority of applicants, but a tiny minority of actual hires. And then on the flip side, there was this tiny little tribe over here to the top. Just 7% of all candidates were being referred by someone at the company, and yet they were making up the vast plurality of every single hire on this continent. Which should tell you, if you're one of those folks who's applying through the usual suspects, you're wasting your time because these guys are going around the game and basically robbing the bank while you're still at the front door. So how do you become one of those savvier candidates who has the best chances of getting a hire? That's by getting a referral. And to get you there, I want to walk you through the process step by step. So I need one more volunteer, someone who's got maybe a specific company in mind that's going to be really tough to break into. Maybe it's super selective, maybe it's really small, maybe it's both. But again, go over to the chat and say, I'm in. And I will show you how to break in to the toughest companies in the world step by step. And all you got to do is go to the team chat and plug in those two magical words, I'm in. And we'll give you all the instruction you could ever want on the most important thing you'll ever do to land your dream job. And I'll come back to some of the folks, by the way, who had volunteered previously. So I'll come back to maybe, let's see here. Maybe I'll offer it to Edwin or Paramveer or Amelia or Huang or Charlene, because you all were some of our very first volunteers. So if any of you are brave enough to give it a shot, just unmute your mic and hop on. Just let me know when you're on. Okay, going once, going twice. Do we have anyone on the line? Hi, who's that?
Hello, Charlene.
Hi, Charlene. How are you?
I'm well.
Great. Thank you for volunteering. And Charlene, I don't have to thank you for volunteering, but I have to say, can you please, please, please give me a big challenge? A company that seems almost impossible to get a job at, so we can see if these methods really do work.
That I know of, sorry?
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be your dream company per se. It could just be a company where you've heard, whoa, breaking in there is like, you know, breaking into Alcatraz or breaking out of Alcatraz or whatever you want to call it.
Like, could it be fictitious or?
Well, it's
like
got to be a real
real?
company because we're going to use real data in a second. So it can't be Hogwarts or something like that, but it could be working at Harry Potter World at Universal Studios.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Okay, cool. I love that. My alma mater. And it's true, like, you know, LinkedIn may not be the sexiest tech company out there, but there are a lot of people who want to get jobs there, especially because now it's part of Microsoft. So it can be tough to get your foot in the door. So let's take them as an example. Now, one of the cool hidden things on LinkedIn is that for every single company, LinkedIn included, there is a company page. And when you first look at a company page, you're like, blah, 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 you know, about the company, their products, who cares, not really exciting. But one of the things that's hiding in plain sight is a company directory that tells you every single person who works at that firm, as well as how you might possibly know them. And so I can promise you, having worked at LinkedIn, that this directory you see on your screen right now is more powerful than the internal directory that LinkedIn has. And there's no reason to hack into LinkedIn servers when LinkedIn's going to give it to you for free. So everyone, check this out. I'm going to put the link right there in the chat for you to play along with us. Now, Charlene, imagine you wanted a job at LinkedIn. If you wanted someone to refer you, someone on the inside to say, Charlene deserves a job at LinkedIn, who would be the lowest hanging fruit that you could possibly go to?
Probably like the receptionist.
Okay, you go to the receptionist, but more specifically, maybe someone that you already know, already has something in common with, right? Does that feel fair?
Yeah.
Oh. And so basically, you know, where I would recommend starting is once you've done that address book import that we were just talking about, and now you have this really big network, you might as well see, hey, do I happen to know anyone there? Maybe it's not someone I know really well, but maybe it's someone that I used to know. So LinkedIn calls that a first degree connection. And of course, this is kind of an unfair search for me because of course I know a lot of people there, but you could imagine, you know, even if you knew just one person at LinkedIn, even by surprise, that person could easily give you a referral. Because think of it this way. Yes, it gives you a 10 times advantage in terms of getting an interview. But if you're ultimately hired, that person will be paid anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 as a referral bonus for recommending great talent. So it's a real win-win. You win as a job seeker, they win as the referrer. So that's the first thing you might want to check. But if you don't know anyone directly, Charlene, where might you go next according to this list on your screen right now?
Somebody I might know who's friends with somebody that works there.
Exactly. I love that. Which is such basic human instinct, right? Like if you don't know anyone directly, do I know anyone who know anyone who knows anyone? It's kind of like that 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? So I say instead of first degree, show me second degree. In other words, a friend of a friend, like Charlene said. And check this out. Here's how crazy the exponential math is when you talk about not just people you know, but people they know. I knew about 200 people directly, but if I say, who do I know who knows someone there? that immediately balloons to 6,000 people. I have secondary connections with almost a third of this whole company, including the executive chairman, the CEO, etc. And so that's a really powerful way to get in. Now, let's be really ambitious together, Charlene, because this is all hypothetical. If I want Ryan Roslansky, the CEO of LinkedIn, to know about me, because I know that if Ryan tells someone to give Jeremy an interview, he is guaranteeing an interview when the CEO says that. Should I reach out to Ryan directly? What do you think, Charlene?
No.
How should I get in touch with Ryan?
See his connections, I guess.
Yeah.
Like see where.
And specifically,
where
look at
he's
that diagram, right? Like, what's the overlap between Ryan's connections and my connections? And sure enough, I used to work with Ada Yu. I could say, Ada, would you please introduce me to Ryan? And now, when Ryan doesn't hear from a total stranger, but instead from someone that he knows and trusts, he's a lot more likely to respond to my message. Does that seem fair?
It sure does.
Okay, so again, friend of a friend, right? Can't fail. Now, let's zoom back a little bit. If we didn't know anyone directly, and if we didn't even know anyone who knew anyone, are we out of luck, Charlene? Or are there other ways to find commonalities with people on the inside?
Oh, there's other ways.
Tell me about some of them.
Like the filter that you just pulled up, that there's locations, connections, how they're connected to you, I guess.
Right. So show me everyone who works at LinkedIn in Canada. So we have that in common. Show me everyone who may have gone to any of my universities, right? Did they go to Lakeland? Did they go to University of British Columbia? Did they go anywhere? And then watch this. Even if you don't have any of those connections, could you say, hey, one thing that I do have is that I volunteer with Habitat for Humanity building houses on the weekend. Is there anyone at LinkedIn who also happens to volunteer for Habitat? And sure enough, there are almost 200 people at LinkedIn who share that nonprofit passion with me. And that could be a way to reach out and say, hey, we have this in common. Could I talk to you about what your experience is like given our shared values? So, question for you, Charlene. This is the bottom line question. At what point should you give up looking for a referral when you have a dream company and a dream job that you want so badly?
Never give up.
Never give up. Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself, because that really is the differentiator, right? Once you've seen this data, hopefully it lives in your retinas for the rest of your career, where you're like, I don't want to be that person stuck on the sidelines getting nowhere. I want to be that insider who's getting an extra advantage to get a job that I truly love. And so I love that attitude, Charlene. Thank you for being our volunteer on the spot.
Thank you.
Awesome. And to thank everyone for being great volunteers today, I want to wrap up with a couple of things. So here's what we're going to do. First of all, I'm going to remind you what we've covered today. So if you're taking notes, you have that. Although obviously you can get the recording as well. Then I'm going to give you some goodies sponsored by the Lakeland team to get you on your way. And then I'm going to do one final profile makeover. So if you want to be that volunteer for the profile makeover, just again, go to the chat and say I'm in, and you can get a profile makeover. And then I'm going to stay online for as long as you want to answer as many questions as you want. So if you've got any questions, big or small, about LinkedIn, please put them in the chat right now, and we're going to answer as many of those as possible. Okay, that being said, let's talk about where we've been. So again, LinkedIn can often feel really intimidating. It can feel like, hey, I'm wasting a lot of time on the site and I'm getting no results. If you want to break out of that problem, think like a recruiter. A recruiter knows that they have to be really focused, so you're going to get focused in your search. Just like Spencer demonstrated, you're going to find the right alumni doing the jobs you want, and you're going to learn about that job before you dive in. Once you know where you belong, then you're going to do exactly like what we talked about before, which is taking your profile and nailing the Holy Trinity. The right job title in the headline, the right location, the right profile photo. But you're not going to stop there. You're going to say, recruiters have 30 in-mails a month. I got to make myself in-mail worthy. So I'm open to work, I'm connected to my dream companies, and I'm following those companies as well. And then finally, why leave anything up to chance when I could take control of my own career destiny with the simple act of getting a referral? Whether it's people I know already, friends of friends, fellow alumni, even fellow volunteers, I'm going to find something that ties me to insiders at the company, and I'm going to get my foot firmly inside that door. Now, to help you get there, a couple of goodies. Number one, if we do not get to answer your question today, no worries at all. I'm always happy to connect with any member of the Lakeland community on LinkedIn, of course. So you can always connect with me at bit.ly/connectjeremy, all lowercase. And then I have to give a massive shout out to Raylene and Chantel, who not only sponsored the session today, but actually went one step further. They said, you know what? We know folks are going to need help 3 months from now, 6 months from now. And so that's why we're giving you lifetime access to the LinkedIn Masterclass, the only one ever developed by LinkedIn insiders. And while it's normally $100, it's free for you as Lakeland students and alumni. And that's either at bit.ly/ally Lakeland or through the link shared with you by Raylene and Chantel. And again, that's a special opportunity that Lakeland is making available to you. So please let them know that you appreciate the opportunity. Okay, now let's go to our final volunteer today. And I believe that Spencer may have gotten it. So Spencer, I know you and I were chatting a little bit before, but Spencer, if you're still there, let's go ahead and get your profile ready to shine. Sounds good? Just let me know when you're on.
Sounds good.
Okay, so Spencer, let's imagine for the sake of this demonstration right now, that you already have done all the homework that we had talked about at the beginning, right?
Jeremy, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Sorry, Spencer and everyone. But did you still want me to record this portion of the session, or should I stop the recording now?
Yeah, I would say let's keep it going.
Okay. If that's okay with everyone who is on the call still, if we want to continue, Kate, Spencer's got his thumb up. Awesome. Kate, thank you very much. Sorry, Jeremy, continue.
Oh yeah, such a great question. I will definitely try to keep this high level so we're not sharing any specific information. But if anyone feels uncomfortable at any point, feel free to let us know. I do want to make sure I recorded some of the answers in case people want to review that at the end of the session. Okay.
There's a lot of Spencer Holmes.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. So we're going to sort of imagine in our mind here, Spencer, that you've done the activity we talked about at the beginning, where you've talked to the alumni, you figured out that you want to do renewable energy, maybe mechanical engineering in that space. Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay, cool. And then help me find your profile here. Let me just see if I can throw on Lakeland. I believe I found you at the very top.
There we go.
So here's what I'm going to do. To avoid being a broken record, I'm going to give you some similar advice that I gave to your classmate, but I'm also going to go into the other sections of LinkedIn to give you some advanced tips as well. So first of all, knowing what you know now, what would you immediately change about your headline to get into the mechanical engineering game?
I would, yeah, definitely completely change the headline there.
Yeah, what would it say?
Engineering management or mechanical engineering management.
Yeah. And it all depends on like what the specific job titles are, right?
Yeah.
If it's engineering manager or mechanical engineering lead, you'll do your homework and you'll figure out the most important job titles, but those are the ones that should be in there. And you could say with a focus on renewable energy and education from Lakeland.
I was actually just thinking that, how would I throw that in there? But
yeah,
like that.
So the reason the headline is so powerful, by the way, is that it is limited to 160 characters. So it's harder to game than other sections that might have up to 4,000 characters. That said, I think the job title plus renewable energy plus Lakeland would probably all be doable. And that way you get the best of all worlds. If you ever have to make any sacrifices, you might want to take Lakeland out so it's really focused on the function and the industry that are most important.
Absolutely.
So that's that. Question about location. Is there a certain part of Canada that you want to be in, whether it's Edmonton or Vancouver or anywhere?
My preference is Western Canada. I'd be acceptable for any of that. But for the foreseeable future, the Edmonton greater area would likely be a better way to go.
Yeah, you will get a little bit more of a hit rate by being more focused there, because that way the recruiter says, hey, if I've got 2 emails to spend, I know Spencer's at least a local versus someone on the other side of the continent.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. And then with your photo, obviously you've nailed the cropping part, but I would still come back to the piece around the Duchenne smile, and then also the dress for the office environment you want to be a part of, become a member of that tribe, so to speak. So Sounds good?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the basics. Now let's get into the other stuff. So again, connections are a big factor for LinkedIn's algorithm. They want to figure out, do you know people at the company? Are you closely connected to the recruiter? So immediately import those address books if you can to get credit for people you've known, of course, across your life and career, okay?
How would I find that here on my profile again?
Yeah, so again, you're not going to do it on your profile per se, but instead over in this My Network tab.
My network. Okay.
Retrace my steps a little bit. I'm going to actually paste in the link so everyone can do this right now if you want to get started. And then hopefully you'll see somewhere on this left-hand side, this little piece about contact import. And it might look a little bit different on your screen, but the idea is basically the same, which is you already know a lot of people. And even though you probably never thought about it, the whole time you've been Gmailing with people or Yahoo mailing with people, you've been building up a natural directory of everyone you know. So why not use that to accelerate the growth of your LinkedIn network since you already know them in the real world anyway? Make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, so that'll help a lot. Now let's sort of nail a couple other key sections. So see this big kind of like gray, greenish blob behind you, Spencer?
Yep.
So that's what LinkedIn calls a cover photo. And you might have seen similar things on Facebook or Twitter. And it might have seemed like, hey, it's a nice thing, but who cares? Well, the truth is that, again, the human recruiter, if not the algorithm, is a visual being, right? We're drawn towards pretty things. And so why just have this gray blob when you could have something really powerful in that space? So what would you say is a good visual signifier of your personal brand, Spencer? Like if I had to distill engineering or energy into like a single picture, what would that picture be?
Oh, well, with the focus on the renewable energy, I've always enjoyed the photovoltaic solar panel installations.
Yeah, I love that.
Sunshine, outside, beautiful day, and you've got the engineer consulting. Actually, that
Yeah.
first one too looks pretty nice.
Yeah, so any of these would be gorgeous, right? You know,
Mhm.
like they're subtle. They're not going to be like totally in your face, but they're going to subtly reinforce your brand, which is, hey, you want someone who's all in on renewables? Spencer's your guy. And it's going to stick right there into their retinas, right? So check out a site like Pexels. It's all 100% free. And it's got this beautiful stock photography. It'll make your profile just come alive. So take advantage of that.
Jeremy, thank you. Yeah.
Your about section is interesting because as far as keywords go, it's probably your second most important section for keywords compared to your headline. But right now you don't have a whole lot in there, right? And a lot of what you've got is kind of like backwards focused. Like I've been in the military, I've done this thing in the past, but not really forward looking as far as here's what I want to do next, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a problem because yeah, recruiters do kind of care about your background, but they're much more interested in what you can do for them. And so what I would highly recommend is about section or summary section. It's a little bit more like the one that I've sort of developed here, which is you want to serve both of your key audiences well. For the human recruiter, you want to give them a clear distillation of who you are. So mechanical engineer with a focus on sustainable energy. Here are 3 projects I've done in school that demonstrate that expertise. Kind of like the Sports Center highlight reel version of your career that makes it easy for them to grok who you are. And then for the algorithm that could care less about complete sentences, all you're doing is just grabbing the exact keywords that matter. So if you want to figure out what those keywords are, you find the job that you're excited about. So you might say, mechanical engineer, sustainable energy, and then you specifically look at jobs. Okay, so come over here to jobs. And I'm just going to pick something real quick here. It doesn't have to be your dream job per se, but it'll just give you a sense of how this works. I'm going to grab that entire job description, which is packed full of keywords, things like CAD skills or high voltage electrical, all the stuff that are the terms of the trade, so to speak. And now I'm going to come over to a separate site called jobscan.co. And what JobScan will do is it'll take this job description. I'm going to paste it in right here. And then it will take your profile or your resume, and I'll copy that and paste it in right next to it. And it'll compare those 2 pieces of text side by side. Has Spencer nailed the most important keywords out of the jobs that he wants next? And when I scroll down, it says, yeah, you got engineering, you got design, that's awesome. The question, have you ever done mechanical design, Spencer? I bet you have, right? It's part of your classes.
Yeah.
Right. And right now, that appears 2 times on the job description, but not once on your profile. And that would be such an easy thing to throw into this about section to make it easy for the algorithm to find you. So I'm going to throw this into the chat, which is everyone who wants to find those killer keywords, head over to jobscan.co. They will hook you up. And that's how you make the most of your about section for the recruiter and the algorithm. Okay?
Oh, now I'm going to save that site.
Yeah. Now here's another one of those huge ROI moments of like, again, 5 seconds of time could change the course of your career and your life. On your paper resume, Spencer, or the one that's sitting on your hard drive, do you have bullets written out for all of these jobs?
I do. Sorry. That depends on what job I'm applying for.
Sure. But at some point in your life, have you had to write up little bullets, for
Yes.
here's what I did in this job or whatever?
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this question. Yeah, they might not be the best bullets, and that's okay. We can talk about that. But like, where do you think those bullets would do you the most good? Are they doing you the most good sitting on your hard drive, which unless someone has hacked into you, no one else is seeing you? Or would they do best for you on LinkedIn, where millions of recruiters are searching billions of times a day?
That would be good to upload it.
Exactly. So again, super simple thing, but if you can get the bullets that you already have onto LinkedIn, it's an immediate win because they are totally effective for both the algorithm that wants all those juicy keywords, things like mechanical design, as well as the human recruiter who's like, I don't know anything about the Comox bomb dump, but I want to hear his stories. I want to know what he can do. And so not having them here is a big missed opportunity. Having them here would be huge leverage for you. Okay?
Okay.
Same is true for education. Honestly, you probably have done cool stuff at Lakeland in terms of classes, projects, stuff that you've accomplished. These could all be resume bullets. They could all be things that build out your skills. Even volunteer experience. When I was at LinkedIn, another survey we did with the recruiters, we said, do you honestly care about volunteer stuff, or does it really matter at all? 40% of recruiters in North America told us we value volunteer experience on par with paid experience. So if you've done really great stuff with Toastmasters, take credit for it. Have bullets that flesh it out. And then certainly, make sure that you've got lots of skills listed here. I think you've done a pretty good job. But again, come back to your job scan master list and say, do I have mechanical design? Do I have CAD? Do I have molding? If you have those skills, they should be there on your skills section.
Yeah, because I do have experience in CAD. I just probably didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a critical one, right?
Yeah.
And then finally, I noticed you have no recommendations, which normally appear at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't go crazy with it and say, oh, you have to have 1 million recommendations, but I would have at least one, because one huge advantage of LinkedIn profiles for recruiters compared to resumes is we all know people can be a little bit disingenuous on resumes. Oh, I was the president of blah, blah, blah. And when they were actually just like the water boy or whatever. And having some third-party validation goes a long way to sort of walking the talk, proving out that you are who you claim to be. So even just getting one person, even from the military, could be helpful to give you some third-party validation.
I was going to say, would it be beneficial to talk to the folks who've given me letters of recommendations? I do have a few of those.
Yeah, especially if they could just copy and paste the letter right into LinkedIn, make it easy for them.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Something to work towards.
And then, of course, last but not least, follow the companies you're excited about. So I see you're following 3M and Northrop. If there are any others, follow them. So make sure you get credit for it in that filter section. And that's how you master the entire profile, all the way from your cover photo down to your interests. Does that feel doable?
I got some work ahead of me.
Yeah, but again, none of this stuff is rocket science, and none of this stuff is frankly that time consuming. Like, you've already done the hardest parts, which is you started to talk to people like you were telling me at the beginning. So you're doing your homework. You've already built out your resume bullets. Now it's just about getting credit for it in the places that matter, which are on LinkedIn.
That's awesome. I had a question with regards to academics there. I just got an academic award through Lakeland. Where would I put that? Or is it worth mentioning?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would probably recommend putting it under Lakeland just because it keeps your profile nice and tight, but also gives you stuff to put in here to flesh out those sections. That being said, if you want to, you can absolutely come in and say, you know what? I want to add a special awards section under accomplishments. So honors and awards that's dedicated just to all the cool things I've done in the military and beyond.
Okay.
But there's no right answer. The algorithm scans every part of your profile, no matter where it's listed.
Excellent.
Cool. Hey, thank you for being a rare double volunteer, Spencer. That takes guts.
Oh, I figured my profile needed some work, so I was like, I'm jumping on that.
All right. Woohoo, woohoo. Well, please send me a link or a connection request after you've put in a little bit of these recommendations, because I want to check it out and I want to let you know if there's any final spots for optimization, okay?
I've already connected with you on LinkedIn.
Oh, cool. All right, we'll be in touch then.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeremy.
Okay. Cool. All right. So, Raylene, I want to come back to you if you don't mind. I know that there have been a bunch of questions that have piled up, and I appreciate everyone asking those questions. Feel free to keep doing that. Raylene, have you seen any questions come in where you're like, hey, we should answer this first, because I know it's going to be on every single person's mind?
You bet, Jeremy. So just scrolling up, and anyone that I miss here, just to, point it out in the chat. Ryan James, he had asked, why are some people I know as first degree show up as second degree connections?
Interesting. So here's sort of probably what's happening, although it may be a bug on LinkedIn side, is that, again, LinkedIn doesn't know who we actually know in the real world. And until we actually connect with them, so whether it's through going to the profile and clicking connect or accept, or using the My Network tool to import your address book, until we've done that and brokered that connection, LinkedIn does not know that we're tied together. So there may be a case in Ryan's situation where he should actually go out there and connect with that person to confirm that LinkedIn knows you are indeed connected in the real world and you can benefit from that connection on LinkedIn. Great question.
All right, Edwin asked, is there a way for LinkedIn to put skill and ability before social gamification?
Ah, interesting. So I love that you're asking those big questions, Edwin. My argument is that LinkedIn, probably more than most things, actually does focus on what matters to humans. And I'll be the first to admit, we as humans have our faults, right? We have 100,000 plus years of, experience and evolution coursing through our blood, which may lead us to make bad decisions in some cases. But think about what LinkedIn is saying. The algorithm is basically a combination of you having the skills to do the job and you having the connectivity to be a trusted member of my community. So what we talked about with Spencer is Spencer has the skills to get the job done. Things like CAD, things like mechanical design, but he's not being discovered today because he's not putting the skills on his profile. And so I think it's fair to say, hey, if Spencer has the skills and he can list them, he should be discovered. And that is the way that the algorithm works. But again, there are going to be a lot of people who have those skills. So all things being equal, we as humans, as a tribal species, for better or worse, have always preferred to work with members of the tribe or people who seem similar to us. And so your challenge is not just to have a profile that has the right skills on it, but to build the right connections. Talk to alumni, talk to recruiters, talk to hiring managers, get to understand their needs and their pain points. And in doing that, you've built those tribal bonds that we all still rely upon 100,000 years plus into our evolution. And so, I do think there may be a certain gamification to it, but at the end of the day, it comes back to those things that we've cared about for years and decades and millennia. And I think we're probably not going to change human nature in the next generation. So we might as well embrace it and say, hey, if we know that people care about your expertise, your ability, and your connectivity, let's focus on that in the way that we build out our profiles. Great question, Edwin. I'm glad that you raised that devil's advocate question.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeremy. Ryan also asked, I get lots of connection requests from people I don't know. Is this because I'm at a desirable place of employment?
Yeah, it is true. There's definitely that phenomenon of like, if you work at a Google or a Toronto Maple Leafs or whatever, like you're going to get, a lot of people reaching out because there's a certain halo around that company. That being said, the more important question is, do you want to accept those connection requests? So let me lay out two different scenarios for you. One is that we've been told all our lives, ever since social media came on the scene, that there's just like a massive downside to connecting broadly on social media. If your Facebook is too public, if you share stuff too openly, someday it's going to come back to haunt you. It's going to cost you a job or a relationship, and you're basically better off keeping everything locked down. And that's great advice for Facebook. We've only seen that become more and more true over the years. However, the other scenario I want to paint for you is LinkedIn really a social network, or is it more of a career accelerator? Because I would argue that the upside of having a really big network on LinkedIn is actually much bigger than the downside. So let's talk about the downside. If you're on LinkedIn and you have a large network of people who maybe you don't know really well or don't even know at all in some cases, yeah, people might try to sell you something or send you some spammy emails asking you to do a call, but you can mute them or you can block them, whatever you want to do. But on the other hand, the upside is that person that you don't know that well just might be your future boss or your future employer or your future business partner. In fact, there's a lot of sociological research that says that there are two kinds of people that we know in the world. There are strong ties and there are weak ties. Strong ties are our friends and our family. And even though they're great cheerleaders for us, the problem when it comes to career stuff is they know the same companies and the same people and the same opportunities as we do. So they can't plug us into new stuff. But it's that person that we used to know, that person who was our buddy in 5th grade, or our gym coach from 10th grade, or the person we knew in freshman year of college. Those weak ties are plugged into so many different networks and so many different opportunities that they're the ones who can serve up the freshest, best things that we didn't even know existed. And statistically, they're more likely to plug you into your next job than someone in that strong tie network. So personally, I know this is going to be controversial. I connect with almost everyone on LinkedIn because I believe in that massive upside. I've used it to get jobs in my career. And I think that you might want to consider that as well when you balance the return on investment and the return on risk. But that's definitely a question for everyone to decide for themselves personally versus just taking Jeremy's word for it. Great question.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeremy. So that's all the questions that I see in the chat section. I think you really addressed everything perfectly. If there's any more questions, please, we've got a few more minutes. So anyone that's still on the call, if you want to throw a question in the chat section. Jeremy, I was wondering, I know that this is really focused on our LinkedIn profile, but I wonder if maybe you could just draw some attention because we do have students and alumni on the call. If you could maybe just point out the jobs area on LinkedIn there. If you could just show that in this section here, just really, I guess, a high level, just this is where to search for jobs and just to point that out.
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason I don't call it out quite as much as the profile or the networking pieces is because, frankly, there are a lot of job boards out there like Indeed and Glassdoor that all have advantages in some way over LinkedIn. That being said, there are a couple of things about LinkedIn that are pretty cool. So let me call those out. That's a great prompt, Raylene. The first thing is that when you come over to the job section, and again, it's one of these little tabs at the top with a little briefcase icon. And I'm going to put that into the chat so you can all check it out as well. Is that when you do a search, and again, let's say project manager in Edmonton, just to sort of build on some of the stuff we've already been talking about. You can then apply a number of filters that are actually unique to LinkedIn in some cases. So what you can filter for is you can actually filter by all the usual things. So like, when was the job posted, the experience level of the company, but you can actually search for, is it remote, which is a really powerful thing here in 2021, because you might be sitting in Edmonton, but you might want a job at a company in Montreal or in San Francisco or anywhere in the world, frankly. So you can turn on that filter. And these are only jobs that the recruiters have completely vouched for are indeed remote. In addition, you can also search for other things that are very unique. So check this out. You can find jobs where not that many people have applied already, fewer than 10 applicants. So these are kind of like the diamond in the rough jobs where basically, there are not a million people applying like they might have for the Maple Leafs or the Canucks. So you can sneak in and snag a job really easily. There are jobs that are in your network. So you can basically say, I only want to find jobs where I have a chance at a referral based on someone I know on the inside. And this is really cool. There are fair chance employers. So basically firms that have told LinkedIn, we don't care about your background. Even if you have had a prison stint or any other kind of experience with criminal justice in your past, we will treat you as an equal candidate in our process. And I think LinkedIn is really trying to sort of change the game when it comes to job seeking and say, hey, it's not all open to the same old people over and over again. Can we open up opportunities beyond the usual suspects? So a lot of really cool things. Other things you can search for, by the way, are certain levels of maternity leave, paternity leave, student loan assistance. So if there are key perks that really matter to you, you can even do searches for that. And again, all this stuff is available on linkedin.com/jobs. And what I would recommend is once you have built your search to the exact specifications you want, then come over here and turn on this job alert. Because one place that I see a lot of people waste time with applying for jobs is they're doing the same search over and over again, when in fact, they can let the computer do it for them. So if you turn on this job alert, you can get notified every day or every week in your email, even on your LinkedIn app, when there's a great new job that meets your specifications. And that way, you leave this stuff on autopilot so you can focus on the more important things like applying and ultimately interviewing. So those are a couple of the tools that are available for you with LinkedIn Jobs. Thanks for calling that out, Raylene.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jeremy. And I also want to point out too that when you're looking at these jobs, you can actually click on. So like how Jeremy has it up on a screen there, before you actually apply or before you do anything with the actual company, you can go and check the company out. So say, for instance, a company pops up that you never really thought of even following, but they have a job opening that really interests you, and you want to learn more about the company and where their locations are, or what other posts they might have, because they also, as Jeremy brought up now on the screen, they also have a section for jobs. So you can go and click on that section and it'll bring up all of the jobs that Intuit has available. So not only is it available where the little briefcase icon job section is, but you can actually go to a company that you're interested in and search the jobs that they have available.
Great point. Yeah. One of the nice things about LinkedIn is that because all this stuff is connected, people are connected to companies, companies are connected to jobs. You can basically click through from a person to a company to a job in just 3 clicks. And all of a sudden, you're really digging deep into the stuff that you're most excited about.
Absolutely. And too, Jeremy, if you say search, like what Jeremy was talking about with the job alert, is so you have that typed in, say there's a specific company or companies that you're interested in working for, but they're not showing any job postings right yet. With that job alert, as soon as that job or as soon as that company does say post a job, it'll actually pop up in your alerts.
Absolutely. So if you've got that dream job at Apple, maybe they don't have the job today, but you can basically have peace of mind and insurance that when that job is posted, LinkedIn will let you be the first to know about it.
Yeah, exactly. So you're not constantly looking every single day, checking to see and going through, because there are a lot of resources that are available. You have different job posting, Workopolis, Indeed. There's a lot of places that employers post jobs, but LinkedIn is also the connection with your profile piece. So too, when you're applying for the job and you do the easy apply, or you can set up the easy apply, or you apply directly, that employer can then view your profile, which is great because they can connect the resume to the individual and actually take a look at your profile. So keep that in mind too when you're applying for jobs.
Great call out. Yeah, that's definitely cool. And one last thing I'll just close with here is that, there's always extra little goodies that LinkedIn has if you hunt around. One of them that I noticed a couple of years ago is on certain job descriptions, they'll even tell you the name of the recruiter and their profile who posted the job. So if you ever want to sort of figure out, hey, who's the person behind the scenes that's controlling my career destiny? Well, now you know it's Shruti. You can even reach out to her to sort of forge a connection. So this is another little benefit of getting to know LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy. No other questions have come up in the chat, so I think that brings our session to a close. I really appreciate too, Jeremy, that you took the extra 30 minutes to give us some additional training, and we encourage everyone to click on the link that Chantel has shared a couple of times and that Jeremy has shown in his presentation to join the Masterclass, the LinkedIn Masterclass.
Great. I'll just say in closing, I want to thank everyone. First of all, everyone who's joined today, because you've been total rock stars with your engagement on the pop quizzes. A special shout out to the volunteers who are super brave to share their own experiences. And then finally, just to Chantel and Raylene for making this all possible. They're working super hard behind the scenes to bring you great resources like this. So please send them a little love after the session and wish you all tremendous success as 2021 unfolds.
Thank you so much, Jeremy, and thank you everyone for attending, and stay tuned to your inboxes for the recording and the LinkedIn Masterclass link. And everybody connect with Jeremy on LinkedIn. All right, well, enjoy the rest of your day down there in California.
Thanks. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.